guys, if you remember earlier in the week, we read The Great Kapok Tree and you made a list of different animals that you came across in the book. To take advantage of this lesson, there's two ways that you could do it. One way would be to get your notebook with the list of animals that we made, and then to get a pair of scissors and a pen or a pencil, okay? That's one way that you could do this. Another way you could do this, especially if you don't have this list anymore, or if you don't have scissors, would just be to open up to the next blank page in your notebook, like this, and get a writing utensil. So either make sure you have just your notebook and your pencil, or get your list of animals, your scissors, and a pencil or a pen, okay? I'm gonna pause for a second so you can do that, pause the video if you need to. Otherwise, I'm gonna keep going. This year, in both the yellow and the orange classrooms, we've talked about how there's the plant and animal kingdom, and then there are different classes of animals. So what I mean by that is that we started off this year with everybody studying mammals, and we studied the characteristics of mammals. At different times throughout the year, we've also talked about reptiles, amphibians, or invertebrates or insects. And then my class did get a chance to talk about fish. I don't think that Yellow Room got to, and we haven't had a chance to talk about birds because that's actually coming up in a couple of weeks. But what we're gonna do today is we're gonna look at that list of animals that you made from the Great Kapok Tree, and we're gonna sort them into their different classes. So if you have your scissors and you have your list from earlier in the week, what you're gonna do is you're actually just gonna cut out every single one of these to kind of turn it into a label, if you will. So I'm going to cut out my list from my notebook like this, okay? And then I'm going to cut each one. So the first animal that I wrote down was boa constrictor. If I look at the different classes of animals and remember their characteristics, I know that a boa constrictor is a reptile. So if you're doing this in your notebook, you could start off a fresh piece of paper and you could write down the word reptile in your notebook, and you could just sort that label boa constrictor right there, okay? Now, that's really hard for me to show you on this screen. And it also might be that some of you have lost or not been able to keep track of your list of animals. So another way to do this would just be to open up to a new page in your notebook, write these 6 classes of animals, and then underneath reptile, I'm just gonna write boa constrictor. Okay, so if you see what I'm doing here. So next on my list that I have from my notebook, I wrote bee, and I'm looking at our different categories. I know it's not a mammal because it's not warm-blooded, doesn't have fur. Don't think it's a reptile because it doesn't have scales. I don't think it's an amphibian because it doesn't have that moist skin. I'm pretty sure that it's an invertebrate because bees are insects and insects are invertebrates. So if you are at home and you've got your scissors, you could cut it out and sort it as an invertebrate. Otherwise, I'm just going to add it to my list right here. Bee. A bee is an invertebrate. All right, let's start going down the list. The next one that I have is butterfly. Can you think about which class a butterfly might fall into? Mammal, reptile, amphibian, invertebrate, bird, or fish. You could start by saying the ones you know it's not. So I know for sure it's not a fish. I know it's not an amphibian, a mammal, or a reptile. A butterfly would be an invertebrate because it's a type of insect. Doesn't have a backbone. So I'm just going to write it. You could cut it. You could even glue it down if you're doing a whole sort at home. Okay. All right. Next on my list was monkeys. Do you know what class of animal a monkey would be? If you said mammal, you were right. A monkey is a mammal. So I would sort it there. Up next, we have the toucan. If you remember what the toucan looks like, in case you don't, I'm going to open up to that page. So the toucan is that large animal at the top with the blue and yellow bill and the black and white feathers. So that should give us our hint right there. If it's got a bill or a beak and it's got feathers, then it's probably a bird. So we've got toucan. Okay. We also had on this same page the macaw, which is that red, yellow, and blue animal right here, and the cock of the rock, which is the orange one here. And just like that toucan, they have bills or beaks and they have feathers. So we're going to classify them as birds. So the macaw and the cock of the rock, and that's written kind of funny. There's like a dash between each one. Cock of the rock. Okay. Next, I had tree frog. Thinking back on what we studied this year, can you remember what type of animal that would be? If you said amphibian, you're correct. It's got that moist skin. It lives near the water. So tree frog is going to be our amphibian. Wow. I'm really noticing the diversity of animals here. We have something in almost every category except fish already. Up next, I've got jaguar. Thinking about our categories of animals, what do you think? If you guessed mammal, you're correct. It's warm-blooded, it has fur, gives birth to live young. So a jaguar is a mammal. Okay. The next one we have listed is a porcupine. Now this one might give you some pause. I know it gave me some pause. I actually double-checked by looking it up online to make sure I was correct that a porcupine is a mammal. Okay. So, thinking about what we know about mammals, that must mean that porcupine give birth to live young. Must mean they're warm-blooded. They have a backbone. And I'm sure there's a characteristic I haven't listed. All right, we've got two more. Next up is the anteater. If you don't remember what an anteater looks like, they look like this with those long noses that tunnel in and look for ants. If you look closely, they've got fur. Turns out anteaters are mammals. So they've got that fur or hair, and they give birth to live young, have backbones, and are warm-blooded. And then the last one is sloth. I know this is a favorite for someone in our classroom, so they probably already know that a sloth is a mammal. So we have something in every category except for fish. Now, I know that there are fish in the rainforest because I know that there's water, but this is really making me want to follow up and do some research about what types of fish live in the rainforest. If you have any ideas about fish that live in the rainforest, you can send me a text. Pardon me. Otherwise, we'll be back next week to look more at animals in the rainforest, and we're actually going to do an animal report of our own next week. See you back here.